Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. North Korea appears to be stepping up its nuclear program once again. New satellite analysis suggests a suspected uranium enrichment facility in Yongbyon is now largely complete on the outside, with work still continuing on the inside. There are also signs Pyongyang is refurbishing key uranium processing sites, pointing to a broader push to expand its nuclear production. Now, these developments come as the head of the IAEA arrives in Seoul for talks with South Korean officials, raising fresh concerns over how quickly North Korea's arsenal could grow. So tonight, we take a look at what this means for Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions and whether diplomacy still has any room to move forward. For this, we are joined in the studio by Kim Mok-yeon, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy. A big welcome, Dr. Go.
Good to be with you.
And also joining us online is Ambassador Joseph Detrani, the former special envoy of the U.S. for the six-party talks. Good to see you, Ambassador.
Nice seeing you. Thank you.
So let's start a discussion with Dr. Go. A couple of days ago, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a cruise missile launch from the new destroyer Cheohyun, and I believe it's the third time in this month. What message do you see from this?
Well, clearly North Korea wants to showcase the latest developments in the conventional capability. And Kim Jong-un has shown that he's very interested in strengthening North Korea's maritime capability. North Korea had always been lagging behind South Korea when it came to, especially when it comes to air and sea power. And I think Kim Jong-un has demonstrated his ambition to catch up with South Korea in these domains. And I think he's very happy that finally North Korea has acquired the technology to have a guided missile destroyer, which is the common standard weapon of the any self-respecting navies around the world. And adding the cruise missile capability shows that North Korea can, in fact, have a flexibility operational-wise, and as well as in fact, surprise South Korea, not just from the north, but from the seas, either side of the Korean Peninsula, the west and the east, from a long distance. So it actually adds to North Korea's considerable capability to stage suppress attacks against South Korea with a conventional nuclear. So I think this is, at least for the North Koreans' point of view, a big step up when it comes to their naval capability.
So a consistent sign about their capabilities we're seeing. Now, building on that, with signs that North Korea is expanding its uranium enrichment capacity, Ambassador Detrani, are we now seeing a clear push to increase its nuclear arsenal? And how much is this tied to the current global distractions like the U.S.-Iran conflict?
Well, no, that's a good question. I think it's pretty clear. Kim Jong-un wants to expand, and he's made that clear even at the recent Ninth Party Congress that they're going to become a significant nuclear power. So yeah, I mean it's reprocessing spent fuel rods for plutonium and the fissile material necessary for nuclear weapons, and you know, highly enriched uranium is the other path to nuclear weapons, and this is something that Kim Jong-un, as his father was pursuing, has focused on significantly increasing their nuclear capabilities, so that North Korea becomes not only a de facto, but a de jure, a nuclear weapon state. And they're looking for approval from the U.S. So to your question, yes, I do think the focus on the war with Iran has distracted much attention to what North Korea is doing with their nuclear program. And I think Kim Jong-un is taking advantage of this, if you will, distraction towards the war with Iran, to further not only build up his nuclear capabilities, but further his relationship with the Russian Federation and with the People's Republic of China.
Right. And in that context, Dr. Go, Kim Jong-un specifically, he said it's strengthening nuclear deterrence as it's a top priority of the regime. Given this, do you think there's still room for U.S.-North Korea talks to happen?
Well, North Korea's top priority has always been about strengthening its nuclear deterrence for the last 20 years, and that hasn't stopped either Washington or Seoul from engaging the North. So I don't think that this is really news by now. But nonetheless, well, there's been significant changes taking place in the diplomatic domain, especially outside of the Korean Peninsula, because in the U.S., the President Trump made in fact, we all know that he calls North Korea a nuclear power, which is a very ambiguous term in the diplomatic sense. I mean, it's not ambiguous in the ordinary language, but then when it comes to diplomatic language, it's a very ambiguous term. But it makes, from the North Korean point of view, it's closer to their negotiation position, which is to ask the United States or demand the United States to accept North Korea as a nuclear state, which is different from nuclear power. So in that sense, I think President Trump, and along with several other countries around the world, including the South Korea, so there are concerted effort to, in fact, accept the reality that North Korea possesses a vast array of nuclear capabilities, ranging from tactical nuclear warheads to intercontinental ballistic missiles. So there's clearly an awareness that if we want to engage in North Korea diplomatically, we have to get closer to the North Korean position without really abandoning the goal of denuclearization. So I think overall, we are still, the chance for diplomatic engagement is still very significant because unlike North Korea, the rest of the world is trying to recognize the reality on the ground. So it's really the ball is in the North Korean side, in my view. If North Korea accepts the fact that the international community wants to negotiate with North Korea, but cannot accept North Korea as a full nuclear state, then I think the space for dialogue will open up greatly.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we spoke about the goal of, denuclearization, considering what we're seeing right now, Yongbyon expansion and signs of increased production, Ambassador, could this situation actually force Washington to reconsider its approach from our initial goal of denuclearization to a nuclear freeze or arms control?
There are a number of people in the United States who are exactly saying that. I mean, it goes back a number of years ago, to include some people who really know North Korea and have followed the issue. And their argument is that North Korea has nuclear weapons. It's in their constitution. They're not going to denuclearize. They're not going to dismantle what they've acquired. And not only are they not going to dismantle, they're building up their capabilities. So why are we persisting? So, but I think the current in the United States is that we should not accept North Korea as a nuclear weapon state, because that would change the whole equation. I mean, we were going to be looking at a nuclear arms race in East Asia, in the Middle East. We're talking about significant nuclear proliferation. And the head of the IAEA is in the Republic of Korea as we speak, talking about the non-proliferation issues. So I think we have to hold to not accepting North Korea as a nuclear weapon state. That doesn't mean we can't talk to North Korea. That doesn't mean we can't have a number of initial steps to move towards a more normal relationship with the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. We can do all of the above. We have lots of tools in our toolkit. We could use those tools like sanctions, lifting sanctions, moving towards a normal relationship. But the fact of the matter is the end goal should be, and I think we should be consistent with that, complete verifiable denuclearization of North Korea's nuclear arsenal, period.
Right. Definitely. So CVID, our initial goal, but we'll have to see how President Trump would react to that. Now, speaking of which, ahead of the U.S.-China summit, China's top diplomat Wang Yi visited Pyongyang. Do you think the Korean Peninsula has become a potential bargaining chip between Washington and Beijing?
I think it's really less about the Korean Peninsula. It's more about relationship in North Korea. I think North Korea's value as a diplomatic chip has gone up because President Trump has highlighted himself that he's interested in diplomacy with North Korea, and then he has emphasized that reminded the world that he's close to Kim Jong-un personally, and so I think that has raised the value of North Korea's diplomatic chef in the eyes of not just to China but everybody else, and I think China knows this. So even if the China's Wang Yi's visit to North Korea doesn't really yield any concrete outcome for either side, for China or North Korea, just the optics of China being close to North Korea and they are essentially restoring good relations with each other, it's going to carry value, especially for China. I think China is preparing for the upcoming summit between President Trump and President Xi, and any option that's on the table is going to be valuable for China because everybody expects the upcoming summit to be pretty tough. United States to make very tough demands, and China is prepared to face tough demands with tough counteroffers, and having leverage on North Korea is going to be valuable for China. And same with North Korea. I think North Korea wants to show to the world that North Korea is being accepted as a normal country, as an important power player in the world and the region especially, and for that having this bilateral meeting with Minister Wang is going to be very valuable for them. So it's a win-win scenario for both of them.
Mm-hmm. More of a ties between North Korea and China. But following that, with Russia's foreign minister in Beijing and President Putin also expecting to visit China soon, we're now seeing a more structured alignment among North Korea, China, and Russia. Ambassador, what could this mean for the broader geopolitical balance, including the U.S.-China summit as well?
Well, no, I think you're spot on. Your question's right on the mark. This is China that's saying we need to look at a multipolar world. It's not just U.S. centric, and this has been a constant theme, and they'll probably mention this obviously in the upcoming summit between Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. So I think this is pretty clear what North Korea has been able to do, not only in reestablishing a good relationship, and I emphasize that, because I think initially, and I think we all have seen this, Kim Jong-un was a little cool to Xi Jinping and to the People's Republic of China. And I think now with the visit of Wang Yi, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, and in September of last year, the visit to Beijing for the anniversary of the end of the Second World War, I think their relationship has gotten to be that much closer. So you have the DPRK now very close to, or much closer to China, relying on China for their economic survival, if you will, but also very close to the Russian Federation. And they're getting a lot of assistance from the Russian Federation for the programs we just recently talked about, their nuclear programs, their missile programs. So they're getting a lot in return for this close relationship. So yes, I think the relationship between the DPRK and the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation has become that much closer. And it's a strong message to certainly the United States, but to NATO or the European Union and others, that it is becoming more of a multipolar world pursuant to China's view of how things should be. And I think this is something we will be discussing and we will have to live with. But obviously this could be positive in a lot of ways also, because we want peaceful coexistence between all these nations, and the fact that we have a war with Iran, and the recent war in Gaza, and what's going on in Ukraine. I think we just have to move this paradigm and move it to a different equation, where we talk about peaceful coexistence, and we try to do things that nurture the well-being of mankind.
But staying with North Korea's expanding of its reach, Dr. Go, it has sent a new ambassador to Belarus. Do you also see this as a move to expand ties across the pro-Russia bloc?
Oh, exactly. I think what Russia and North Korea are doing is to consolidate their burgeoning relationship with each other. So the best way to do so is making North Korea an integral part of Russia's sphere of influence. So for Russia, the benefit for Russia is to have an ally in the Pacific region and essentially a major player that can create nuisance to South Korea, Japan, and the United States, and also paradoxically could also act as a check on China. So there's a very good reason for Russia to embrace North Korea fully, and same with North Korea. North Korea can lessen its economic dependence on China. We know that North Korea relies on China for almost 90% of its trade. So this overdependence has always been a strategic weakness for North Korea. So with Russia, North Korea has a chance to expand and diversify its trade ties. And I believe the newly appointed North Korean ambassador to Belarus has a background in economic policy. So in that sense, I think it makes sense for North Korea to have new partners, new markets, and also essentially new ties that secures its economic security. So I think this is, again, another win-win scenario for North Korea. So second win for the night.
So definitely it's trying to, reach broader ties. Now, when we look into the internal developments within North Korea, Dr. Go, today, April 15, marks Kim Il-sung's birthday. But North Korea, it has been, traditionally calling it the Day of the Sun. But we hear that it's kind of avoiding it these days. How do you read into this?
Well, I think it's not the first time that this is happening. So it's a part of North Korea's new cult of personality campaign. So it's all about making sure that Kim Jong-un stands as his own man, outside the shadow of his grandfather and father. So now leaving the father's shadow as started a long time ago, which is relatively easy because it's not the founder of North Korea, just a successor to the founder of North Korea, who is Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung is much more tougher. But then on the other hand, I think it's been more than 10 years that Kim Jong-un has become the leader of North Korea. And I think finally Kim Jong-un feels confident that he has achieved major outcomes that can rival his father's and even his grandfather's. For instance, he had a face-to-face meeting with President Trump, not once, but twice. And also North Korea has essentially completed its nuclear capability development, which has been a long-held aspiration by the North Korean regime. And now North Korea has a level of prestige that his grandfather can only dream of. So I think it's a declaration of confidence on the part of Kim Jong-un that he's his own man. And I think this trend is going to accelerate from now on. We'll see much more imprint of his own preferences and policy directions in North Korea. And I think this is also a pre-step towards the succession plan. If Kim Joo-ae, the daughter, is indeed the heir anointed to succeed him, I think it's important for Kim Jong-un to be recognized as a bona fide leader of North Korea on the same level as his father and grandfather. So I think this is a very complex machine. What I mean is the North Korea propaganda and cult of personality machine. Essentially, they are taking a concrete step towards that goal, not just for the present, but also for the future of the regime.
So it seems a lot of things are changing for North Korea, be it
Exactly.
domestic politics and even diplomatic efforts as well. We have to keep close tabs on their latest developments. But as for now, I believe we'll have to leave our discussion right here. Thank you so much for your insights, Dr. Go.
My pleasure.
And of course, Ambassador Detrani too, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.